this lecture, let's look at the different types of roles which are required to develop and deploy a business intelligence solution for an organization. You need to have the right people involved in the right time, and based on the plan which is defined for the project implementation, the experience and the time on which the experience is being used by a particular role is more critical for a project to be successful, right? So here are the typical roles involved in a data warehouse or a business intelligence project. Project sponsor. Now, the project sponsor is normally an executive from the company, such as the CIO, CFO, the controller, or someone who is willing to spend that money for all the IT team to implement this solution to get the benefit out of a particular system. For example, there is a manual process which is happening and it is missing all the deadlines on a monthly basis. So they want to automate some process with which the current team, the current front-end team or the business team would be able to leverage this option to not miss any deadlines, right? Or to come up with better analytics or analysis to take the business decision even faster, right? Now, the basic responsibilities of the project sponsor would be to represent the data warehouse project to the upper management. Now, obviously, if he's spending the money, which is, let's say, millions of dollars, he should be the point of contact to the higher management, which is the CEO, CTOs, and multiple other higher level management people who represents this particular DWBI project, right? And he's the one to authorize the resources to the project. He would decide, or he would contribute, or he would sponsor the resources allocation or the time, which is nothing but end of the day the payment, the salary to the resources, right? I mean, it is not that project sponsor will pay for it, but he's the authority. He would decide if he have to go for that much amount, or what is the overall amount which he should be spending on the resources, what is the total budget available, and multiple things. So that goes hand in hand with project manager, but project sponsor is the ultimate decision maker of deciding if a particular resource should be paid for or not, depending on the project requirement. Now, he also represents the client when the project is outsourced to the external consulting firm. Now, this is a day in, day out process. All projects are being outsourced to some vendor or service-based company, right? So project sponsor represents the client when the project is outsourced, meaning the project sponsor himself becomes the client, right? The service company or the vendor who is taking up this project, they have to deliver what the project sponsor is expecting to be delivered, or the outcome of that particular data warehouse or the business intelligence project. Let's talk about the project manager. Now, the project manager is responsible for the project planning and tracking the overall project status, right? If the project is outsourced to the consulting firm, the project manager is typically from the outsourced company. For example, if IBM is the company to which I have outsourced my project as a project sponsor, I'll have the project manager from IBM, right? It is not somebody within my company, which is ABC, assuming, who will do the project manager. Sometimes it'll be a collaborative effort where there'll be an involvement from my company's project manager and IBM's project manager, right? The reason for this collaboration is to have the control of how the project is being dealt, are the timelines being met, how are the criticalities being addressed, right? The usual responsibilities of the project manager, as in any project or as in any technology immaterial of data warehouse or business intelligence, would be to develop and update the project plan. Obviously, you will have a start date and an end date, the expectancy, and you have to put a plan within those dates. Review the dates and have the periodic project meetings with the whole team to track the progress, or if there are any issues, he should raise it or record it, track the issues to closure, report the project status to the sponsor and rest of the team or the stakeholders, right? That's the typical project manager role. There is nothing different on how it works with data warehouse or let's say .NET or a Java technology. The next one is the function analyst or the business analyst. Now, who's this? The functional analyst analyzes the requirements and define the metrics, reports, and dashboards. Right? The functional analyst should translate the business requirements into the technical specifications. Now, these should have been different. The business analyst and the functional analyst should be different. Now, there is a reason why I have included both of these together. Now, in real time, it would not be, there could be a possible scenario where these could be two different people, but most of the times, most of the real-time situations, it'll be only one. Right now, you could ask me, how would a business analyst know what are the terminologies which a technical person would understand from a functional perspective, right? Now, the roles are becoming challenging now. There are multiple things which a single person have to do. And in the recent past, the business analyst role is being converted into a techno BA role. Like, that's what I've noticed, but in theory, we can also discuss this as two different roles, where business analyst is the guy who gives you requirements and functional analyst is the guy who analyzes the requirements, converts them into the technical terminology which IT teams can understand. Okay, that depends on the company's historical way of dealing with projects. For example, if IBM has a practice that there should be a different guy for functional analyst and a business analyst, there will be two different people. But if it is a project which has, let's say, very less sponsored amount and we cannot have a whole list of people and we want things to be done with less number of people or a lean team, then it would be done by the single person, right? We can always take that as a discussion and see what a functional analyst can do and what a business analyst can do and why it should not be combined or why it should be combined, right? So just remember that it could be the same or it could be different, right? So what did I mention about the functional analyst? The functional analyst analyzes the requirements and defines the metrics, dashboards, or reports, right? The functional analyst is the one who translates the business requirements to the technical specifications. Now, with this point, it makes it clear that the business analyst is some other guy who writes the business requirements first, and then functional analyst comes into picture to make it as a technical requirement analysis. And then you have SME, which is nothing but a subject matter expert. The SME is typically from the sponsor company, right? The SME is usually the end user. Let's take a real-time example of a retail store, right? Now, let's say in the retail store, there is always this issue of a barcode not being read for a particular product, which is creating the delay in processing the customer's products and customers' transactions and going to the next customer. For example, to make it more clear, if I go to the counter, let's say I have 20 products which I've picked up in the store, right? Out of those 20 products, only 10 were successfully read by the barcode scanner. The other 10 were not. So the POS guy, the point of sale guy or the lady, have started putting in the barcode number manually for the rest of my 10 products. Now, what is the it would still work. I still have to pay for the all products, but the time which it has taken to key in all the barcodes for the 10 of the products is delaying other customers' time, right? With this competitive world, if somebody feels that delay even for a minute, you wouldn't see them the next time, right? To improve the customer experience, let's say you would call the SME to understand what are their pain points, right? So in the example which I've taken, the major or the critical pain point is the barcode scanner, right? So how do you solve it? Let's say along with that, they have something else like, okay, why don't we have automated POS system where customers can themselves scan the barcodes, get the amount, pay for them, which will also reduce the overhead on the POS, and the customer experience also will be enriched. Right, so these are the ideas, or these are the issues which they face day in, day out, and that's when the SMEs are called in by different members within the project to see how to address those pain points, right? So that's the example of who an SME can be. Now, depending on the domain, let's say telecom, banking, insurance, it would change. But end of it, it is nothing but they have an issue and they want to automate that process or reduce the issue and enrich the customer experience to get better sales or to get better analytics or to get better outputs. Now, typical responsibilities of an SME are to describe the business requirements and business process to the business analyst or the functional analyst, right? So they would tell them in the normal layman language, which will be put in as a requirement, which will be taken by IT further for the development. Now, SME also have to perform a UAT testing, which is nothing but end user acceptance testing. Now, once IT team develops everything, deploys it into the user acceptance test server, which is UAT server, they have to come in and see what they have expected is what is being delivered or not. Based on that, they have to provide feedback to the rest of the team or the way they want to look at the system. For example, if they expected a report to be populating all information about all transactions on a particular day, but the current report is restricting only till yesterday. So they should report that saying, okay, I want a real-time one, not a T-1. And once all this is analyzed, let's say UAT testing is successful. Now this SME will be the point of contact to the rest of his team, which is POS sales in the example which we've taken, to train them and understand what is the new process, right? So he's the one who should tell the rest of the team or rest of the retail team who's operating on the ground on how to use the system or what are the benefits which they are gaining out of it. Right. Now let's talk about the next one, which is the DW BI architect. Now the BI architect is familiar with dimensional modeling and the BI tools. Now the BI architect defines the schema on which the whole requirement should be built. When we say schema, it is the star schema or the snowflake schema or a combination or something which is more critical or more complex or even simpler, depending on the requirements from the SMEs, functional analyst, and the business analyst. Now, the BI architect typically comes from the consulting firm, which is nothing but the vendor. Right now, if IBM is a vendor for a company called ABC, the reason ABC is hiring IBM is that IBM has this list of roles or people who are familiar and experienced with this. So obviously, you'll have to get somebody from IBM, which is a vendor company in this example, to do that. Right? Now, I've mentioned a point earlier here saying the BI architect should be familiar with dimensional modeling. Now, there is a difference between dimensional modeling and being a data modeler. Right? We'll talk about that, but it is very thin. Now, like I've mentioned, for functional analyst and business analyst, we can also put DW BI architect and data modeler on the same level or a single person. It is not impossible. And there are many situations where the architect does the data modeling for LDM and PDM, which is logical data model and physical data model. So the typical responsibilities of a BI architect are to design the logical model with the inputs from the functional analyst or the business analyst, develop the business intelligence metadata in the repository. This is where the core or the foundation of what should be done with the whole requirement is decided. Define the physical data model to the SMEs or the business model on how they are mapped. For example, if there is a requirement where they want a new report and that new report should get all the transaction data of a particular day. So what are the attributes which the business is looking out within that particular report? How are those attributes gained from the source? Where should they be placed? Are those source attributes good enough to directly put in a report? Should that be cleansed? Should that be validated? All of these will be analyzed by the architect and then decided on how they should flow from the source till the report, right? So that's about the data model or the BI architect. I can actually move these together here, which makes it more clear. Data model, right? DWH tech administrators. Now the reason I have put this is all the requirements nowadays are with multiple technologies, right? It is not only with ETL database and one business intelligence tool, which is either Cognos, Business Objects, or SyncSort, or any reporting tool for that matter. There are legacy systems which can be mainframes, COBOL, or .NET. I mean, .NET is not legacy, but there are systems which are built with .NET which are still legacy, right? So if there is a combination of multiple technologies within the scope of what the project has to deliver, then you would have different kinds of technical administrators who would deal with it, right? And depending on the project and the requirement, that tech administrators will be there. Now, in some projects, especially in the insurance and retail, there will be coordinators who would be handling only the servers, for example, the database server or the Informatica server or the ETL servers or the reporting servers. They're just proficient or experienced only within that. Okay.